Hi, my name is Agnes Kim, and welcome to the Masters Octave located in Keyport, New Jersey. Today we'll be speaking with Irene Bailey, nationally acclaimed portrait artist, regarding her solo exposition, Light, Love, and Loyalty. Irene will have 72 original works currently on display. Let's go take a look. My name is Agnes Kim, and we're with Irene Bailey, a nationally recognized portrait artist. Now, Irene, tell us a little about yourself and how you first got started in this field.
Well, I'm originally from Yorktown, Virginia, and I started drawing when I was very young, about 10 years old. My mother gave me a drawing pad, and in the 5th grade I did portraits of all my classmates in pencil. Mm-hmm. So I went on to art school and have been painting really all my life. I really began to paint more portraits after my children were born, and I wanted to paint them. And then I was painting other people's children and seeing the delight in their eyes when they saw their children painted, and that really
And when did you
propelled
first
me.
think you found this creative design of yours?
I was very young. I drew my cats and dogs. I was in grammar school, actually.
Okay, well, could you tell us a little about your paintings?
Sure. This painting was a self-portrait that I did in my studio at ECU, and around me you'll see paintings that are actually in my home, and some are my instructors that I had done for my thesis show while I was there, and my son and boyfriend and a lot of...
Within the pictures,
Yes,
I see.
yes.
Oh, yes. Now, tell us a little about your inspiration for this picture.
Well, I wanted to do a self-portrait, but my paintings aren't just about me or one person. It's usually about their life, so I try to involve other elements in the paintings that tell a little bit about their life, and so this is what was going on in my life at the time.
So tell us a little more about the other key people in your life within this portrait.
Okay, well, this is a portrait of Nick, my son, who you'll see later, and this is my husband now, Don.
Oh, yes.
And it's a painting I did of him. And this was the dean of the painting school.
Wow, very nice.
And this was the dean of the painting department. So
Fabulous.
I did those, and that was part of my thesis show.
Now, who would you say you looked most up to during your life at this period?
Paul Hartley.
Paul Hartley.
Right.
And he was your, I'm sorry,
Painting instructor. He's the dean of the department, but he recently passed away, and actually they used that painting in the North Carolina Literary Review magazine, where they gave obituary about his life and everything.
That's fabulous.
I was very honored that they used that.
Very nice. We're with Nick and Jimmy here. Nick, tell us more about this portrait, please.
So this is me and my brother. I'm not sure how old I was. I was probably about 5-ish, and definitely looked up to my brother a lot, and definitely was great for him to show me a little bit of love and snuggle up with me during one of my afternoon naps or something, and it's definitely a great moment captured.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to say to your mother after looking at this?
Well, there's a couple things. Well, one, it's well done. My mom is super talented, so that alone, just how great it looks, is awesome. And two, it's great that she captured a special time between brothers.
I agree. Thank you very much.
One thing.
Oh, please.
My two little boys have grown up to be wonderfully successful young men. I'm very proud of them.
Irene was selected as one of 100 incredible ECU women in the last 100 years in 2007. Irene started her formal training at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts and received her master's degree in fine arts at East Carolina University. She is an active member of the Portrait Society of America, the Portrait Institute, Stroke of Genius, Monmouth County Art Council, and Greenville Museum Artists Association, to just to name a few. All of Irene's portrait and figurative paintings are alive with movement and luminous light. Her technique is painterly yet precise, and her colors are luscious. Her goal is to capture the essence of the subject and then to create a work of art that will stand to test the time. While producing the work of fine art, Irene strives to capture the true personality of her subjects. Now, Irene, who is this man in this picture?
This is Don again.
Don again.
This actually was when we were dating. And he's from upstate New York, and his uncle actually was in the fire department in New York City, and he was showing us around the city. And this was Don with what he had on that day, and then the Brooklyn Bridge behind him.
Now, what made you decide to paint this picture?
Well, I just loved the red on his jacket, and I wanted to capture a momentum for that day of New York City, and I thought Brooklyn Bridge would be perfect. And so when we were out taking snapshots, this was one of the ones where he was in front of the Brooklyn Bridge, and he's got that Brooklyn hat on, and I just thought it all went together.
Now, so you took a picture first and then painted this picture?
Yes, this is from a photograph that was taken.
Oh, well, it's amazing. We are with Don Wells, Irene Bailey's husband, here today. Don, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I've been in the Marine Corps for 20 years, traveled around, saw the world, and basically have been Irene's subject of painting for my whole life.
Well, I just want to say congratulations on your retirement soon.
Thank you.
Now, tell us a little about this theme of love, life, and loyalty.
Well, we've enjoyed each other so much our entire life. She's my best friend, and she is the love of my life. So it really seems to be a trend in our relationship. The love for each other and our family, the love we have for life, and of course, the artwork and the painting.
Mm-hmm. Now tell us a little about this painting of yourself.
This is back actually probably before we were married, and she tries to capture what's important to people. Well, obviously 20 years in the Marine Corps, being in uniform is very important, and then having the flag in the background symbolized part of the reason why I joined the Marine Corps, so I thought it was very appropriate to be in there.
And what was the reason why you joined the Marine Corps?
To serve my country.
Thank you. That sounds great. Now, how does it feel to be such an important subject for the paintings?
I feel special. I think special is the right word. To know that she has chosen me to be the subject of her life, not only in painting, but actually through marriage and our relationship. I want to say she's my best friend again.
That sounds great. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
is a very special moment that you captured. Please tell us a little more about this.
Well, this is how we met. We met dancing, and this is one of the dance halls we used to go to.
The Tar Heel Opera House.
And we enjoyed dancing for about 3 months before we actually started talking to each other. So we were very compatible dancers before we became compatible companions.
Do you have anything else to add, Major Wells?
I especially like in this one the way I'm looking into her eyes.
Absolutely, you could definitely capture the moment and movement within this portrait.
Well, that's one of the things I was working on at this time was movement within my paintings, and then the light, trying to create the atmosphere, and the darkness with the bright colored lights, and then people moving around. So that's what I was trying to capture there.
Absolutely feel the feeling within this portrait. Thank you so much. So Irene, tell us your inspiration for this painting.
This painting is part of my thesis show where I painted a few of my favorite instructors. Sharon Pruitt was a great instructor. She was the African art history teacher. Okay. And as you can see, there's two images of her head. And the first one I painted, I changed my mind. I wanted her a little bit different. And instead of painting it out, I left it because it sort of shows her two personalities. She's a really fun person, but at the same time, she's a very serious person. And then I echoed that duplicate image in some of the other posters and artifacts that she has around her in her desk, at her desk in her office.
Now, what was the theme for this painting?
This was a portrait of her, and and what she's about. And she's about history.
And why did you want to portrait her?
Why did I choose her? I chose her because I became very fond of her during the time I was in school.
Okay.
And we had a relationship, and I decided to select some instructors to paint for my thesis show. And so I selected her as one of them.
Now, what types of tools did you use to paint this?
This is oil painting.
Oh, oil painting.
Now,
for the dualist?
yes, it's all oil.
Wow.
It's a use of line and wash, and then a little bit of heavier paint in places. But it almost looks like a watercolor. But this is sort of a phase I was going through, where I would just sort of do washes and line, and then just develop certain areas.
Now, what school did you end up going for where you met these
I went
teachers?
to East Carolina University.
Okay. Is that where you met your husband?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, close by in Jacksonville.
Okay. And were you still in school while you were dating your husband?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I was.
I've met Irene Bailey and so pleasantly surprised to find out what an incredible artist she is with a very versatile repertoire of tools. She can work in charcoals and oils and pastels, and if you look behind me here, how she captures the essence of a person in the photos that she paints. I think she's one incredible talent, and I'm proud to know Irene.
Irene, I know this is one of your favorite pieces. Tell us about it.
Okay, this one is of my son and my first grandchild. And as I said, my family is a great inspiration. And this was a very important moment in our family's life when we had our first grandchild. And this actually is a mixed media.
Okay.
The hands I drew in charcoal to sort of emphasize the baby holding on to my son's thumb. And then the rest is oil. And it was, I thought it was just precious, the interaction between the two. So I wanted to capture it.
And how old is your grandson now?
Well, that's my granddaughter, actually.
Oh, granddaughter.
Yeah, and we don't want to talk about ages.
Oh, we don't want to. Well, what kind of emotion are you trying to capture within this painting?
I think just that this teenage boy is actually enamored with this baby. and wanted to cuddle up with it, and the baby's holding his hand. And I just thought that was sweet.
It is. You capture a great moment. It's beautiful. All right, now, Irene, I know that you have your family here. Will you please tell us a little more about this portrait?
This is a portrait of my son, Nick, behind me, and my first granddaughter, Simone. And this is when she had just come home, and Nick was fascinated with her, and I did this portrait to commemorate that.
Now, Nick, tell us a little more. What were your thoughts about this?
Well, I was 10 years old at the time, and I was, fascinated for being an uncle so young, and I really took a lot of pride in that, and I definitely loved my niece.
Okay. Now, reflecting back on this, how do you see yourself after?
I still see myself as a pretty awesome uncle. I'm kind of the cool uncle, and I definitely shower my nieces and nephews with plenty of love.
I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Now, when you look at this, what do you think of? I know you're such a young age, but like looking back on it now.
Well, it's interesting to me, since obviously I have no memory of it. But it's sweet. It's a sweet picture, portrait. Adorable. I can't really see myself in it, but
But it's great to look back on, right? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
This is probably one of my favorite paintings that Juma's done, especially of me, because I just really like the hood over my head. And my mom always said that she really liked my hair cut really short like that. And I just find it interesting to see my hair all light, and it just kind of brings back memories, I guess. And I just really like this painting.
Thank you.
That's it.
We're with Gail Paris today. Gail, tell us what you thought about the exposition today.
I thought it was absolutely transcendent. It's some of the most beautiful artworks I've ever seen, especially the self-portrait.
Now, what would you say was your favorite portrait today?
The self-portrait.
Of Irene herself?
Yes, and also of one of her in her studio.
And how long have you known Irene for?
I really just met her today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what was your favorite thing about the portraits?
Light.
Light.
The light and the texture.
And the momentum of the feeling of it.
Yes. Very spiritual.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Basically, if somebody had to say, who are you, I would say, first of all, I'm an architect, and I specialize in estate restoration. Second of all, I have an opera company in New York City that I'm very proud of.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And third of all, I do a lot of benefit work for different charities, and that's really how I met the artist that did this wonderful portrait of me.
Now, where are you in this portrait?
I am at the beautiful, what I call Shadow Lawn, but now it's Wilson Hall and part of Monmouth.
Really?
Yeah, part of Monmouth University. The beautiful mansion that's basically the flagship of Monmouth University.
And what did this portrait impose of when you were at Monmouth University?
Basically, Irene and I do a lot of benefit work. We raised money for their scholarships fund.
Okay.
And Irene and I were talking about perhaps doing something of me in that environment. And so you can see the beautiful, beautiful architectural detailing. And I was dressed for the ball, so.
Oh, for the ball that Monmouth University does every
We
year.
have a holiday ball in December to raise money for scholarships.
Did you take part in this holiday ball?
Absolutely, yeah. I was chairman for many, many years, and we raised really millions of dollars. And people like Irene were instrumental in that. They would donate their artwork, and we would auction it off, and that would bring in thousands of dollars for the scholarship fund.
Absolutely. Now, what do you want people to depict from this portrait?
I guess it's it's really Irene's vision of who I am, and it's a beautiful, beautiful environment, a glorious house that was built in 1929 for $29 million. Absolutely. And she felt like that she wanted to get the feeling of me in that environment.
Now, is this also a photograph that was done from a portrait?
No, actually, I posed for it for her.
Wow.
We were actually at Monmouth University.
And how long did this take?
Probably altogether, maybe 9 months, because it goes through different processes.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a great day.
I have the subject of this painting with me today, my daughter Chandra. And Chandra, how did you feel when this was being painted?
Well, Mother, no. No, I will have to tell you what I love about this painting as it has to do with how I grew up. I remember the day that we shot these photos, and this hat is very significant in our family. It's the hat from my grandmother, Jane.
My mother.
Jane E. Bailey, Jane Edwards Bailey. And it was one of her favorite hats, and my mother wore it a lot when she was, whenever she wore it. And then I always fell in love with the hat also. But not only is the hat significant for me, is that this day is significant for me because it's a day that my mother made me feel beautiful. And the fact that she made this beautiful painting of me also it really helped me feel like a beautiful young woman, which I have to say was what I think that she does for all her subjects in her work, is she makes them feel beautiful or significant or important or whatever the impact that portrait has on the environment that it's around and the subject, is that she really brings out the best in that person. And I'll always be grateful to my mom for making me feel beautiful.
Thank you.
You capture a person in the moment, and the expression speaks for the whole painting. The expression speaks, and your daughter, in this, for example, if you just look at the eyes and look at the light and the shadows, you can tell her whole history. You can see that love. You can see you didn't have to know it was the hat that was your grandmother's and your mother had, because the whole picture has captured all of that. And all of your work is that way.
Now, Karen, what brings you out here today?
We're friends of Irene and Don, and they invited us to come see their exhibit, so we thought we would like to support them. We're so proud of the work that Irene does.
Now, how long have you known Irene?
Probably about a year. We've been working together at Monmouth University.
Now, what do you guys do at Monmouth University together?
We're volunteers, and we worked on the Monmouth University Ball Committee.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Now, what did you like best about this exhibit today?
I think Irene's versatility, from the details in her cityscapes to the capturing the essence of, I like her children, and I like the essence that she captures in youth. I work with children, and I think they just tickle me. They really do.
That sounds great. Now, what favorite portrait did you like best?
I do have a picture, I don't know the name, but it's a little girl, and she's sitting leaning back. She's got beautiful blonde curls, and the details in her toes and her fingers and the expression on her face just is really, I think, priceless.
Now, would you be willing to be a ideal photography for Irene's paintings? Would you want to be one of her ideal?
I might have. If she ever asked me, yes, I would probably be flattered.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you so much for interviewing us. Thank you. Hey, Irene, tell us a little more about this picture and the lovely lady here.
This is my granddaughter, Sophie, and this is when we were playing on the beach in Maryland. Do you remember that, Sophie?
Yes, I do.
Sophie, do you have anything to say to everyone?
Not really.
No? What do you think about this picture?
Well, I remember when that happened in Maryland. It was a long time ago, and that's all I remember.
Do you enjoy the beach?
Yeah.
She loves the beach.
I love swimming and stuff.
What else do you like?
I like the color green. I like sports. I like soccer. I like running, kicking.
That's great. Do you enjoy your grandmother taking portraits of yourself?
Yes, I do.
Good. Well, thank you so much. Now, Frank, how long have you known Irene for?
A year and a half.
Okay. Now, what do you think about her exhibition today?
Excellent.
Excellent. What was your favorite thing?
That's very difficult to put my finger on one particular painting, but I love the double, triple exposure. It seemed to me like, in addition to that, it was from like a muting the painting and then focusing on a particular figure was the gentleman in that painting. It was in color. That was an outstanding. But like I said before, a lot of her work is truly outstanding.
So please tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Jack Santelli. I'm a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, stationed at Red Bank, 6th Motor Transport Battalion, and I work with Major Wells and Gunnery Sergeant Dabb, and it's a great unit.
Now, what did you think overall over the exhibition?
I thought it was great. I think Irene is really gifted, and I think she has like a talent that not many people have, and her artwork is fantastic. It really is. I'm very impressed by it.
Now, what was your favorite painting overall?
Actually, I really like the one that she did of herself, a self-portrait. I think that's amazing how she did that herself. And there's a few in there. There's a couple military-related ones and a few others. But overall, she has close to 100 pieces from what I hear. It's just very impressive.
And what do you get? What kind of sense of feeling do you get when you see these military paintings?
I just think it's very patriotic, and it just portrays a good feeling in that, and obviously Irene and her husband Major Wells, patriotic people. He served in Iraq, and but it's great for the community to come out here and to see this. It really is.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everything you've done.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ty, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm from New York State, from a beautiful area on Lake George, and I came to visit in Shrewsbury. And later years, I came by this house, and it was slated to be torn down, and I fell in love with it.
Now, I know this this property has a lot of historical background. Will you tell us a little about it?
Yes, at one time, the property was known as a certain number, but it was a cow pen lot. Okay. And that's where the British could keep their troops and their food, their stock, and so forth, and then it would leave Keyport, which was a key port, and they'd go to Staten Island, New York.
Now, how did you meet Irene?
I met Irene because a very dear friend of mine had a portrait done by her.
Oh, okay.
And we were visiting and so forth, and it just was one of those wonderful things that happened.
And how did you come up with this exhibition with Irene coming to this place?
Well, I don't use the house for anything in particular. I do share it for receptions and so forth. And I always did a few art exhibitions. And I chose her. I had an opportunity to go to her home and see the works on the wall. And it's very uplifting, very movement. It's a joy to be around it. Absolutely. I feel it's an honor. And also, it's the second time in my life I was able to have the artwork of the personal collection of the artist, of her own work. So it's really an honor, I feel, to have it.
And how did you choose the pictures that were going to be here?
Actually, as she showed me, and of course it was family, the children, and all of that, and the wonderful story that went with them. And some of the large ones, for example, of teachers or artists she studied with after schooling. And there's so much in the subject, in her approach was. And for example, the children, she catches the action of an expression. And I put that in a category that I did in my sculpture friend. I mean, she's terrific at it.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, how did you meet Irene?
Irene and I met last year at the Portrait Society convention. The brand ambassador for New Jersey introduced me to her, and she said, you know, she lives in your area and she's right down the road, and she's looking to split the fee of a model and paint from life. So after a few months, I called her, and the rest is history. She's a very lovely woman. I love the originality of her work. It's very colorful. We both love to do color. So we get along great, and I'm sad to hear that she's moving.
So look, what was your favorite painting of this?
Favorite painting? There was a couple that were really, really well done. I love the paintings that Irene does of her husband and her dancing, because they have a lot of movement. Like I was saying about Irene's work, I'm a colorist, and what I love about Irene is she's not afraid to take chances with color and to not do the formula. She's not formulaic in any of her work.
Right.
And it's original. A lot of artists, realist artists today, are copying what was done.
Yes.
They're actually ripping off a composition of an artist.
Alan, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I've been retired for about 12 years. I was an art major in college, but I made my living in advertising, but I taught on and off at NYU for about 25 years. I've always kept an interest in art, but I'm really now a gardener than an artist. And I've known Ted for several years, and Ted is into a lot of cultural things, so he's like invited me to many things that he has going on here. And I did meet Mary Weir a little while back and went to several of her concerts. And then recently I saw a portrait of her in the picture by the artist here. And I was very curious about her work, and then told me he was going to have a showing of all her work, so I came to see it. And she has a much, much broader range than I thought.
Now, when did you first discover Irene Bailey?
I would say probably about a year ago. I saw several of her works in the paper, and I was curious. And one thing that she does in oils, which is sort of unusual, is she thins them way down. And I've only known a couple people that did that, but I like what results when she does that. And I really like oil paintings, but Mary's things, which I saw here tonight, I really liked. And as I said, she has a much broader range than I thought she would have. She does other things besides the portraits, does semi-abstract things. And to me, her portraits they're not stiff. And a lot of people that do portraits, they're very stiff. And I think she sort of gets the essence of the person in her portraits. And that is going beyond what a lot of people do. And I also said to her, when I was in art school, something I found fascinating was you could have a class of 30 talented, say, artists, and out of 30 in a class, 2 people could do portraits. So portraits are a truly special gift. So that's always fascinated me, because I was in the group that couldn't do portraits. So that, brought me to look into this a little more. But anyway, and of course meeting her, she's charming too. And I had a long talk with her about, how do you do this? Do you go to the home? Do you meet the people first? Right. She said yes, she usually does that. And she does sketches or takes photos in their house to get a feeling of what they're like. And then she brings all these different things into her portraits. And I think it shows, because she has something a little extra in.
Now, what is your overall perception of the overall exhibition?
I think is very, very appealing. And I'm one of these people that if I wasn't retired and had more money, I would probably buy half the things that are in there. Fantastic. But I think she's very, very good. And I think she's very sensitive in color. And also, I like her things that are semi-abstract, because you still see what's there, but it's not stiff, and it's, it's
your own perception of it.
Yes, it's just, she's good.
Now, what would you say is your favorite portrait?
I don't know if I have a favorite portrait, really, because they're all so different. But the thing, as I said, that's so unique is, I think she captures each person.
Absolutely.
In the photo, and that's what I like, because many times when you see portraits, they're just head on, of all the different people. Mm-hmm. She has them in natural surroundings, sitting in a chair, face forward, all different kinds of things, so it brings more into it. So I like a lot of them. I can't say I have a favorite.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. To find more information regarding the artist and more works, please visit her website at irenebailey.com.